Okay, welcome everybody. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Great. Let's wait another minute or two. A few more people are hopping on here.
Oh, look, there are all the people.
I'm not seeing very clearly.
Here's us.
Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. So welcome again to our online Sangha. My name is Justin Michelson, one of the leaders of Eugene Insight Meditation. Happy to be continuing this practice and teachings with you here online. If you haven't yet, you can mute yourself. I think everyone's muted for now. And then you can unmute yourself in the lower left-hand corner, I believe, of my screen when you want to share. So we are a 501c3 nonprofit. We run on donations, and it's helpful to, even though we're online, to continue that spirit of generosity. So we encourage people to offer dana on PayPal. It can be sent to eugeneinsight@gmail.com. Yeah, so we follow the same structure more or less that we do in person, and that'll be to start introducing a topic or a theme for the evening. I'll talk a little bit about it tonight first, and then we'll go into small group discussions. I'll create breakout rooms here on Zoom, so you can speak with just a few people at once around the topic. We'll come back, share some comments, questions, sit in a meditation together for 30 minutes, and then I will share some more, and then open it up to questions at the end. It should be done by 8. So for tonight, the title of the topic or the Dharma talk will be "We're affected because we're connected." A phrase that is also true at this time and has some deep spiritual implications as well. So I'll share a few things about that. It's almost like the first noble truth. It's one of these truths that is always with us. No one can escape it. From day one, we are deeply affected. It's sort of a law of nature. From the womb through early childhood and on, we are imprinted deeply by the conditions and circumstances of our lives, by our caretakers, by our circumstances, by the people we meet, experiences we have along the way. Of course, this continues through our lives from early childhood on, all the way to this day. But for the majority of us, our circumstances are not immaculate, and our caretakers have their natural human flaws. For some of us, actually, we have experiences that are greatly harmful, greatly unkind to us. So when we're young, we intuitively know that we're vulnerable and affected greatly. And we also know that we're connected. But in response to our environment, we begin the process of building various protective walls around ourselves, which makes sense. We have different strategies to protect ourselves. And these too, just like the effects of our experience, these protective strategies stay with us for a long time, all the way to this day. And each of these walls we put up, or these protective strategies, becomes a bit of a sheath or a barrier to this underlying intuitive knowing that we're connected. And it builds to a point where, for many of us, it's just a faint memory that we really are connected. So a crucial part of the spiritual path is uncovering this original knowing of our connectedness. Today, certainly billions of us are being affected by the coronavirus on all levels, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. But not all of us at this time remember that we are connected. And not all of us feel in our hearts the nourishment that comes from this remembering. Many of us are physically or emotionally isolated, without loved ones or without our routines and our work. So the old patterns, the ways we were affected when we were young, many not so helpful, they surge back into our consciousness, and anxieties, fears, all this comes up in our own version of this amidst the great uncertainty of this time. So it's a moment of challenge, but it's also a moment, I think, of incredible opportunity. An opportunity to explore the structure, the underpinnings of this aloneness that we might feel, which is really sort of a self-quarantine, to use an apt metaphor, a self-imposed confinement. So as we practice spiritual path, we begin to free ourselves slowly from this, and this is an opportunity at this time to investigate this as well. So I'll talk more about the progression of the spiritual path in regards to effectiveness, protectiveness, connectedness afterwards. But for now, we'll just stay with this first piece, that we're affected because we're connected. And we'll explore that together. So I'd like to start a small group discussion. And I'll just keep the prompt pretty open and ask the question, how is it that we're being affected emotionally, in particular, from the coronavirus at this time? What emotions are we feeling? Where do they show up in our bodies? And are there ways that we're protecting ourselves from feeling these things? So, general prompt, how are we being affected emotionally? In particular, what emotions and where we feel them in our bodies? And are there ways we're protecting ourselves from experiencing these things? So please feel free to share as openly and vulnerably as you like, and know that what you do share is in confidentiality and in these small groups. So in a moment, I will create breakout rooms. There'll be a pop-up on your screen. You can join a breakout room. You may not have anyone at first, and I'll move people around if you don't have anyone to speak to. Okay, welcome back, everybody. In your breakout rooms, I see some smiling faces, hopefully some meaningful conversation. So I'm curious to see if anyone would like to share just their experience, how they're affected, any protective strategies you're using right now. If you'd like to share, just unmute yourself and go ahead and speak.
Justin, this is Nancy. I just like to share that I feel I had a wonderful experience today of immense gratitude just for the earth. Everything is growing right now, and everything is striving to grow and to do what it has done for the millennium. And the gratitude, I just opened up my heart to the gratitude of the earth and the trees and the planet and the spring, to just something so much bigger than all of us, that it just, gratitude and tears of joy just came from me today on my walk. And it was so meaningful. For me, this is an exceptionally sacred time of just getting out of my head, which is just a dry and just dark place, into out of the intellect into my heart, and just being grateful for that blade of grass and that flower and that bud. It's a tremendously sacred time for me, and especially in meditation, when I breathe, I really have renewed intention on my breath, because of the virus and because people around the world are struggling to breathe, that I want to breathe for them. I want to, as I breathe, just breathe for them, because many people can't breathe right now.
Beautiful. Thank you, Nancy.
I think, are we there? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. What we were talking about is the learning experience and the connections, the strengthening of connections. I know I've been talking to more people deliberately, friends, family, old friends, just checking in with people, making sure that they're okay, letting them know I'm okay. Talking to cousins, talking to old family, and finding out what's going on with people, just, and enjoying their company from afar, just through texting or on the phone. It's drawing me closer to people. I do have somebody that went into the hospital last night that they believe we're just waiting for the test result. So that's been a shakeup. That's been something, but I've been expressing a lot of gratitude also on my walks, seeing people's yards, and just seeing people out, staying across the street, just saying hello to my neighbors, being in contact with people, however you do it, is really important right now. And having this sort of medium has been a godsend. It really has, to be able to just have, think of someone and say, hey, how are you? So that's where I've been.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to share? Okay. So we'll go ahead and practice together. in this spirit of being in our hearts, as Nancy brought up. And I'll guide us in a meditation. So you can stay where you are or find another comfortable place in your house. You don't have to be on camera. Just so you can hear and find a posture that'll support you in staying alert, upright, but also relaxed. So we'll start with the breath. But first, just experiencing it as we feel it through the heart center. Almost imagining as if we breathed in through the center of the chest, feeling the expansiveness of the lungs and the rib cage, and then breathing back out through that same place. And since it's fresh in our hearts, we might also call in, invite in the way that we've been affected, that we were just speaking about with our partners. Inviting in that emotional energy to the center of the chest, along with our breath. Along the way, we might discover there's more than just one emotion present. Perhaps there's gratitude for the ways you are connected. But also at the same time, maybe some restlessness, unsettledness around the uncertainty for you, the ones you love. And holding all that, just continuing to breathe naturally and gently into your heart center. noticing how the emotions change and evolve as we stay present with them in this way. If we feel so inclined, we can bring a hand to the center of our chest. To deepen our sense of connection to ourselves and our experience, we might offer a phrase. If it's a challenging emotion we're feeling, you might say, this is a moment of stress, or this is a moment of fear. Just to name it, this is a moment of gratitude or a moment of joy. As a way to feel it even deeper. If this is a challenging emotion, we might add another phrase. I care about this. I care about this stress or this fear, or this anxiety. Beginning to bring kindness and compassion into our relationship with ourselves. It's safe to say that whatever it is we're experiencing, millions of other people are experiencing the same thing at this same moment. All around the world, businesses are shut down, people are home from work, sitting at their homes on a Sunday night, feeling what they feel, perhaps not too different from what you feel. Including all of these other people's experiences, we might also reflect in a larger way. This too is a moment of collective stress or fear, anxiety. And that we care too about this collective stress. Seeing if even within the challenge we can feel our connection. And noticing what happens in our hearts as we acknowledge the world in this way. We can also acknowledge the parts of ourselves and the many others in this world that are experiencing joy or gratitude or a deepening sense of ease in certain parts of their lives right now, having slowed down, perhaps spending more time with partners reaching out to people they haven't spoke with. Realizing that we're in this together. You might acknowledge this by saying, this also is a moment of reconnection. I care about this opportunity. I can find joy in the other people's joy. Continuing to breathe in our heart center and just noticing what it's like to hold the world in this way right now. Whatever it is we've been experiencing, whatever it is we've been holding, I'll invite us to imagine that it's already held in a larger, more vast space. I'll invite us to imagine that the space of the heart is wide and deep, extending out behind, above, below the body. and the presence and kindness we've been offering to ourselves. Seeing if we can feel it, welcome it, coming from this larger space. Imagining further that this vast space of the heart lies within each of us. Perhaps unnoticed, but still present. Emanating from within, around each person, each part of nature, the earth itself. And this presence so resilient and strong that it can hold all that you're feeling and all that everyone is feeling with ease and wisdom. Closing this meditation together with a poem by Thich Nhat Hanh. Please call me by my true names. Don't say that I will depart tomorrow. Even today, I am still arriving. Look deeply. Every second, I am arriving to be a bud on a spring branch, to be a tiny bird with self-fragile wings, learning to sing in my new nest, to be a caterpillar in the heart of a flower, to be a jewel hiding itself in a stone. I still arrive in order to laugh and to cry, to fear and to hope. The rhythm of my heart is the birth and death of all that is alive. I am a mayfly metamorphosizing on the surface of the river. And I am the bird that swoops down to swallow the mayfly. I am a frog swimming happily in the clear water of a pond. And I am the grass snake that silently feeds itself on the frog. My joy is like spring, so warm it makes flowers bloom all over this earth. My pain is like a river of tears, so vast it fills the four oceans. Please, call me by my true names, so I can hear all my cries and laughter at once, so I can see that my joy and pain are one. Please, call me by my true names, so I can wake up and the door of my heart could be left open, the door of compassion. Don't say that I will depart tomorrow. Even today, I am still arriving. So we'll take a 5-minute break. I'll ring the bell and join back a little after 7:30.
yeah.
You just unclick that.
That same one. Okay. There
Yeah.
there
and then
is
if you want to be seen, then you click the video camera picture.
You can come on back from wherever you are, and I'll offer some Dharma reflections and then hear from you.
Oh. So I'll talk about the evolution of the spiritual journey from this perspective of fundamentally being connected and all the ways that we tend to forget that or cover that up, and how we find our way back. So it's a universal human strategy, I would say, for all of us, myself included, from the time we were young, to find ways to protect ourselves from being affected by the world. Perhaps at first being affected by the conditions of our upbringing, from our caretakers, different flaws they may have had, different ways we were treated. And each of these acts of protection can be seen as a separation, a beginning of the process of isolating ourselves in various ways. And this is effective at times, necessary at times. But whether we know it or not, especially as we grow older, as we get on the spiritual journey, we see that these
ways we protect ourselves actually begin to limit us, begin to choke us, strangle us in a way. We enter into a trade, a deal. We trade this knowing of our connectedness, knowing of our belonging for a bit of protection, comfort, familiarity, some semblance of safety, equilibrium. And this works for many of us relatively well. We've found ways to hide within ourselves or to set ourselves apart from the challenges of the world so that we, most of the time, feel relatively safe. And that's okay. That's a perfect beginning point for the spiritual journey. But as we enter into the spiritual path, we start to see things a little differently. First, we're told that there's a deeper peace, or there's a total freedom that's possible. And we wonder about this. Is this really true? Perhaps it is, but is it possible for us? As we allow ourselves to sit in meditation, to listen to our hearts, our deepest longing for reconnection begins to emerge. Underneath the fear, the protective layers, we realize that we always have and always will long for this sense of connection. We realize that all the while that we've been protecting ourselves, we've also been reaching out for connection at the same time, through people, through places, conditions, things in our lives. That a part of our being has always been craving for this connection. And as we realize this, we see that we have lived in quite a conflicted or divided state, halfway in isolation within ourselves and halfway reaching out for connection, reaching out and pulling back. We can feel very torn. This stress or suffering of that, if we're oriented in a spiritual way, can call us forth deeper into the path. And this is the second insight that we might have, is that we see that we have to begin to dismantle the very strategies that kept us safe and protected for so long, and risk becoming unstable, becoming vulnerable, risk breaking, risk a death or transformation of our protective egos. So that which was seen as the most dangerous thing, true connection, becomes the very thing we need for our liberation. And this is why on the spiritual path, often things become a little bit rockier and more chaotic before they become clear again. But we do, usually still for some time, using these old views, we reach out for connection. We allow ourselves to, at some time and place, perhaps with a person, to dive into, to surrender into connection. And for a time, it's perhaps We might remember a time it's really quite glorious. It's perfect. It's what we always wanted. Feel like we're coming home. But to our dismay, the conditions that brought about that connection end, or they change. We become hurt, dissatisfied. We perhaps doubt or question whether true connection is even possible or worth it. Sometimes we pull back even further into ourselves. This brings us to a third insight, if we're looking closely. We realize that what it is we reach for matters. At first, we blame our disappointments on the qualities of the things or the people we connect to. They weren't right, or I wasn't. I'm not enough in this way or that way. But with the guidance from the teachings and being scrupulous with our own experience, we see that our satisfaction really depends in part on how long it is that something lasts, how stable it is, that which we're connected to. So we crave for the most stable thing to connect to. If we could just keep this person or this place or this thing around forever, we would be just fine. And for some of us, we're quite successful in this. For me, this has been nature. Certainly, nature changes, but it's so old and ancient. Like a mountain, there's some sense of reliability and stability in that connection. And anything like this, any connection that lasts, it stabilizes us for a time. It affirms our deepest longing that connection is possible. It affirms that we can come out of or through the protective habits and strategies of mind, at least for a time. But if we're deeply honest, we see that each step of connection in this way is sort of like training wheels until we're ready to see the deeper and sometimes harder truth that no conditioned thing can satisfy the spiritual craving for connection that we have. No thing in this world. Sometimes we speak about desire as being one of the unwholesome roots or the causes of suffering in our lives. This craving that I'm speaking of for connection, if oriented in a wise way, is actually a very wholesome desire. A desire that we can embrace, that we can trust to guide us and lead us all the way home. So this leads us perhaps to the fourth insight, that connection to presence or life itself, emptiness. It's the only true protection we have. All the other ways we've tried to protect ourselves, all the other ways we've moved towards connection have been limited. They haven't fully fulfilled this spiritual longing. Yet even seeing this or feeling this, there's still a journey left because there's parts of ourselves that don't know this yet. Parts of ourselves, perhaps very young selves, that cling to the old places of comfort and familiarity. So we have to be a sincere surrogate for presence. We have to honor the parts of ourselves that are still hiding and teach them with unconditional kindness and compassion. But all along the way, as we reach for these parts in ourselves to bring them back into connection, we meet again all the layers of protection. So at each step, we're asked to honor those parts of ourselves as well, to thank these parts of ourselves that protect us for all they've done for us, the ways they helped us, so that they too may trust in an even greater protection in presence itself. And as we do this work, the paradox begins to heal. This paradox that although we are affected because we're connected, we're also protected because we're connected. A hard thing to see at this time, perhaps, when we're being encouraged to distance ourselves from one another. But as we touch into presence, we see that there is a protection here that is beyond all of our limited strategies. We see that if we avoid connection altogether, we sacrifice the capacities of our hearts to feel, to be compassionate, to be caring. So we can't do that anymore. We see that if we're connected to the source of life itself, that we can hold anything, because we really aren't the ones holding it anymore. And it's in this insight, deepening insight, that we begin to feel the awakened heart emerge, perhaps in spurts and spats at first. But we feel ever more deeply this capacity within us to respond with wisdom and ease to all the challenges of life. A responsiveness that does not beget our capacity for connection. A way of being affected that continually acts to reaffirm our deepest knowing that we're connected to life itself. And we lean into this until we become it more and more fully. We begin to feel into, first in our meditations perhaps, and then in our daily lives, the unimaginable protection that backs us and surrounds us in every moment. This unconditional interconnection and belonging, unbreakable, without boundaries, without limitations. Not a becoming a different self than what we already are, but seeing things in a bigger perspective. Really, all along the way, both of these strategies, the common strategies of self-protection, psychological protection, and the spiritual strategies of connecting to presence, they're both here with us. We are and will always be human and vulnerable. We need to create boundaries and protect ourselves at times. And it's also natural to want connection with others and places and things and nature. There's no inherent problem in that. What's critical on the spiritual path is that we begin to identify the difference between a protective or connective action that's reliant upon conditioned things, the changing world of people and places and things, and the lasting protection and connection that only lies and comes from the essence of life itself. So both can actually coexist. We can engage in acts of self-protection and connection and kindness without forgetting that it's also our innate birthright to belong. So this time of the coronavirus, I think, is a unprecedented opportunity for us as Dharma practitioners to explore the walls that we have put up, to question the aloneness that we might feel even deeper at this time. To imagine our way out of this self-confinement, self-isolation that we were really already in, but perhaps now has become more clear or more visible to us. Self-confinement that arises in the form of thoughts and emotions about ourselves, limiting beliefs that we have, and just this sense of being separate from that seems to pervade our daily consciousness. Is that really true? Is it really nourishing? Even as we sit to drink a cup of tea in the morning, or prepare ourselves a meal, or walk around the house, can we invite relationship with all that we touch, with all that we see? Can we begin to come back into connection, little by little, moment by moment? As we experience our normal patterns of heart and mind, thoughts about ourselves that are critical, judgmental, emotions or moods we would rather not have, those too can we begin to rebuild a relationship with, invite them back into connection, into wholeness. So the spiritual journey is really following this longing for connection back home in a way that makes sense to us, seeing ourselves as the doorway. So that's what I'll share for this evening. And in the remaining time we have, be interested to hear from anyone in the space about your experience tonight with the meditation. We basically did that same thing. We invited in to our hearts the ways we are affected. We held ourselves with kindness, and then we allowed ourselves to be held by presence itself. So how was that for you, or how are you now? You can unmute yourself if you'd like to speak.
This is Mitch. Thank you for that piece tonight, Justin. I feel even more grateful than I did before I came to the Sangha tonight to celebrate this community that has come together in the face of all the other challenges that are presented to us, to continue to look at how we are both isolated and in some ways even more encouraged to connect and to look deeper into ourselves. And I, for one, am very grateful for that intention that each of us who is here tonight presents, the willingness to look at our situation and be very clear-eyed in assessing it, embracing it, and considering whether it's really working for us or if there are opportunities for maybe a re-examination or just a reconsideration of how well it's working or not working for us. So I've heard this piece many times, and every time I get something new from it. So thank you for the lesson tonight.
Thanks, Mitch.
Thank you, Justin. I feel much more peaceful in my heart than when we started tonight. And I just feel gratitude and appreciation for the way we are doing this and that we can keep coming together and support each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, I want to reiterate, thank you, Justin. And it's just so wonderful to get to see everybody and feel that we're in this space together. I feel really deeply touched to have our Sangha continuing in this way, in this such special, difficult, challenging, and who knows, heart-opening ways. So I want to thank you, Justin, and everybody for participating. Oops.
Thank you, Linda.
Okay. Thanks, Justin. I appreciate how you articulated this sort of subtle and very private aspect of life especially now, we're spending time in a very different way than we usually do, with all the busy things in life that keep us up at I don't know, a sort of more superficial. And now there's a lot of that busyness has just stopped, and there's much more of the subtleties that are more fundamental, I think, to it. So actually, the phone conversations I've been having with people, I noticed people are starting to talk on a level that they just didn't very easily go to. People are talking about life and death. You know, am I ready to die? You know, what do I need to do just in case, and stuff like that. And you know, that's a very personal, deep part of ourselves that doesn't just hop up to the surface. So I appreciate your talking about it the way you did tonight, Justin. And certainly I've been contemplating a lot my part, myself as part of nature, and reverence for the miraculous, how my body, how all of our bodies are working all the time to stay healthy. That happens all the time without we even understand it or think about it, to nourish us and bring in the oxygen. And you know, there's so much that's awesome, you know, truly. So thanks for talking about these really things that are at the root of what our lives are. I appreciate that, Justin. And it's fun to see everybody's face. I really resisted Zoom. I'm not really fascinated by technology, but this is way better than not seeing you. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Ruth.
Hi, Justin. Are you hearing me?
Hi, Raleigh. Yeah, we can hear you.
You may notice this is my first time. I want to thank my daughter in Oakland who insisted that I do this, because I've been so terrified of it. And it is, I agree with Ruth so much. I felt like I heard you in a way I've not heard you before. Speaking with such an amazing compassion and hitting it right on the spot. The intriguing thing about the virus, the whole feeling of what's going on in our world, of change that may be coming, transformation that may be coming, also being put in the final quadrant of those of us who may be existing later when I have to face that I am part of that. And I don't like that. I don't like it when people say, oh, I'll stay away from you because, you know, but it's a great thing to be able to have the courage to face some of the things that we've had to face in this. And I think when it's all over and we're all healthy and everything is back to normal and we're all doing the same old stuff, I feel like I'm not going to be the same person because of it. And you've really delineated that for me and helped me swallow that. Hi, everybody. I don't know how to turn this off, so I may be here forever. I don't know.
Thank you, Raleigh.
Okay.
Okay. Is there maybe one more out there, or should we close?
I just want to say thank you to everyone here tonight, and Justin, thank you so much. The being connected is so important, and as I've realized over the weeks and year and more that I've been doing this with all of you, that the relevancy of everything is because we are connected. We're connected to everything, and everything is important. So just thank you all for the opportunity this evening. And yeah.
Thanks, Ed.
Justin, can I say one quick extra thing? I
Sure.
wanted to put a plug in for the Thursday night class
Mhm.
that's going to start on April 2nd. And Stan and I took it last year at this time, and it was so important then, and I'm really eager to go through a new round of the 4 foundations of mindfulness. And I think now, having had this experience with Zoom, I can see how the class could really work this way. And I just would like to encourage everybody as another way to touch in with the Sangha and hear Justin's Dharma talks and stuff. His class is really, really good. That's my plug.
Thank you, Ruth. I think I was going to forget to announce that, actually, so I appreciate that. This coming Thursday is the beginning of the online 6-week series. It'll be Thursday nights, 6:30 to 9. It might be a little shorter online. We'll see how it flows. But yeah, still definitely have space, and I think we'll have a few people from around the region, so that might make it more interesting as well. I'd love to see more of you there. We go through the 4 foundations of mindfulness, and there's some intro, sort of beginner elements that we all can use to, we can all hear again. But then there's also, we go into the deeper teachings around non-self and presence, and it's a pretty insightful course. So that's available for sign up. There's a link on the eugeneinsight.com website and also on Facebook. I think that's our only real upcoming event, except for these Sunday nights will continue. Hopefully we'll have the nature-based retreats that I lead starting as soon as this stay home order is lifted. So maybe later this spring or early summer, we'll see. All right. So good to be with you. Have a wonderful week, everybody.
Thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Justin.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Justin.
Yeah, thank you, Justin. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
I don't see her on there.
Thank you all.
Okay.
Neat. Very neat.
Okay.